Now, maybe you're this person that says, I struggle with time management and I have a lot on my plate. I have a lot to do. There's always something kind of coming my way. And I don't know how I'm going to able to swing it and make it happen. Well, let's talk about this a little bit. One of the things that I find interesting, and I do want to share this particular analogy, is that folks feel like there's a lot on their plate, as I mentioned before. And during this coaching session, I made this comment. I said to this person, "You're absolutely right, but I think you're wrong in saying that there's a lot on your plate. In fact, I think you have a buffet in front of you." And you don't have a plate because the buffet is your plate, right? This describes nonprofits for sure, and small businesses as well, where there's just a lot on your plate or a lot at the buffet, and you simply bring a chair to the buffet area, and your fork and knife and your bib, and you're eating from the buffet. And what's funny about the buffet is the cooks who are your colleagues, if you have any customers, outside forces, maybe your board opportunity, they are coming out of the kitchen with a pan full of an item that you haven't even finished eating yet, right? So they're refreshing whatever you have eaten, meaning that your buffet section remains topped off. This is what it feels like. And it's overwhelming if you feel like you have to clear this buffet before the end of the day, before the end of the week, before the end of the month. That's challenging, right? So that's why I'm not going to go with the analogy that you have a lot on your plate. You have a buffet in front of you, and time is not on your side, right? Time is staring you in the face. Um, by the time you start to get through some things, it's already the end of the week. By the time you look up and take a breath, it's already end of the month. By the time you get back from lunch, it's already the end of the quarter. And by the time you take your sip of coffee, it's Christmas time, it's the new year, and it starts all over again. It is a cycle that, if you're part of these small environments, you know exactly what that feels like. So let's talk a little bit about how to navigate time management. This idea of feeling like you don't have enough time comes from the fact that you may feel everything is urgent, or what's presented to you is urgent. Like, no matter what, everything it is emergency, hair on fire, fire alarm type deal. And the problem with this is that if everything indeed is urgent, that means nothing gets viewed from the perspective of how do we prioritize what we're going to accomplish today, this week, this month, this quarter, this year. It becomes hard. So now you're like an octopus working on 20 different things at the same time. People are bringing new things to you, and somehow you need to magically grow another arm or tentacle to handle this new thing. So you have no priorities, everything is urgent, and time is getting away from you. One of the solutions that you can use to reclaim control is to enact block scheduling in your life. This is when your work schedule is blocked off in multi hour chunks, or half day chunks, or days of the week chunks, or weekly chunks. So, for example, if you know that there are repetitive tasks, and like just take my business for example, where we send out proposals, we're constantly making offers to customers, potential customers, and we're making it known that we would love to work with them. It's part of our marketing approach. With that work, it can become time consuming and tedious. It can become overwhelming. And so, in order to accomplish that, we set aside specific days of the week to exclusively and only do sales. Now, this works if you are a small team, if you're a team of one or a team of two, and somebody has that as a responsibility in something else. Block scheduling says every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday, we're engaging in our marketing efforts and we are getting out offers. RFPs, proposals. We're responding to the needs of potential customers, right? And nothing else will distract us from that. Now, it doesn't mean emergencies do not come. It does not mean that things do not pop up, because they certainly do. But what it says is that we've dedicated these 3 days to do this because we want to remain in the flow. We want to remain super focused on accomplishing what we are setting out to accomplish relative to this topic. And it's true for any other thing. If we're working on a work product for a client, and we're doing their strategic plan, and they are a newly onboarded client, and we have 3 to 4 months to accomplish this, we block our schedule in advance so that there's no other distractions when we're doing research, when we're doing focus groups, when we're doing writing, where we're setting aside for conversations with the customers, when we're doing billing and everything else. Like, there's no other distractions. So block scheduling allows you to do that. Now, I did talk about the designated days to do certain things. The other point about block scheduling, it allows you to do something called deep work. This is not a new concept. You can certainly YouTube this and search this out. But deep work means that I am focused on this singular idea of work and this only, so that I'm in a zone, I'm in a flow, I'm learning from the previous thing I did in this blocked time to help me do the next thing faster and better and smarter. So if you're working on a sales proposal and RFP, and you get it out, right? And you figure out something in your proposal template that you could tweak. Oh man, I'm gonna add this to the next one because I just figured it out and I just submitted this. Can't undo that. So let me go to the next one, and it gets better and better and better. And it's a systematic process. Deep work allows you to focus. By the time that deep work session is over, you have become infinitely smarter. So when you get access to the next deep work session relative to the topic at hand that you're focused on, you're carrying over knowledge, not just relevant to the topic, but other things that are influencing your ability to focus and to do this thing well. This allows you to avoid last minute scrambles when you're trying to accomplish something. This causes you to think more strategically. You do get better. It is a sacrifice to learn how to engage in deep work and block scheduling, but it is important. I do want to highlight just a few more things before we wrap up time management. And let me just say this before I say these last few things. Everything else we're going to cover will impact time management, so I'm not going to cover it all here. But a couple of thoughts here. Um, Responding to everything immediately is not a strategy for time management. In fact, it's a clear setup for burnout. This responding with immediacy and urgency to everything means you are going to be going at 100% uh, all the time with no pacing, and it doesn't work. You can't run a race sprinting the mile or a 2 mile race or a marathon the entire way. You got to find that leveling place where you are moving at a solid pace that's not dragging you behind the competition, but keeping you at a place where you can move at a steady speed, so that as the finish line becomes clearer in your vision, you can accelerate to close the race well and win the race. So please be thoughtful about how fast you respond to things. And we're going to address that in another segment. And the last thing I'll share with you, I wrote this for nonprofits, but I do think small businesses can benefit from this thought too. And it's this: in the nonprofit work, the most expensive cost that we incur is our time. And a lot of us do not have the time budget to do all the emergency things that pop up. In a small business, it's true as well. You may keep the earnings and the profitability at the end of the fiscal year, but you don't have the time budget or the time luxury to go here, there, everywhere, to respond to everything, take on every new project, every new concept, to be at every meeting as if it's normal, like you were at your previous employer when there were 30, 40, 50, 100 people there or more. You're a small operation. So you have to make different decisions that accommodates for what you're trying to accomplish, realizing that my most precious resource is time. I may not have $1 million in the bank just yet, but what I have that's equivalent to everyone else that I'm competing with is time. So, how do I leverage my time to do things well and to have the greatest impact? And so, I got to be thoughtful about my time management practices and approaches. I got to engage in deep work, look at block scheduling, and appreciate that my time is valuable and that I have to use it wisely and not respond to everything like it's an emergency or like it's urgent.